Another day, another hole. The shale holes. All that shale. Weirdest part of our property. Seeing little crickets. We're gonna give this a shot. About way too much for a little property. Let's see the bird try to make a nest again. Yeah, he did. Bringing sticks again. And saved him with a block of wood. Yesterday I came in, there was a bird nesting right down in here, trying to bring us little sticks. He had a whole wad of them. Get out of here, bird. Tractor ain't for you. That's some good coffee. Here we are. Beautiful streak of weather here at the end of May, beginning of June. Working on the property. There's my wife working on the fields back there. Let's see. Trying to deal with pest problems. Trying to figure out what critters are nibbling on the flowers already. Little rootstocks. Thought I would take the camera today, steal it, do a quick tour of something I've been working on over the last couple weeks for my brand new baby tractor, John Deere 1025R. And I'll just pan over here and we'll see what it is. Call this a lean-to structure. Normally you don't build lean-tos on the side of barns like this, especially not, as you'll see, with the width that I chose to make it match the shed. But I know that you guys have seen in a prior video the makeover project on the shed, which involved coloring and painting. We've done quite a bit of work to it, including graveling. We had a lot of excess gravel, a lot of desires to build a bigger structure, which I think we'll need here in the next couple years, but we're trying to make do this year with a much smaller storage structure for farm equipment and all the stuff we need on the land. It's basically a 10 by 15 lean-to. It's focused on just the tractor, since I don't want to put it in the garage. I don't even think it would fit in the garage with the ROPS up and with my little shade canopy, and I don't really find folding that back to be an enjoyable experience. And a lot of what you want to do with a tractor, I feel, is to try to cut back on the manual processes involved with folding ROPS or putting away implements, and provide enough storage so that you can just park it and give it some element protection, rain, sun. One of the funny things about this little where's my finger? This little shade canopy, the rhino hide canopy that I found, is it doesn't drain water well. So after a good rain, every time I pull this thing out, if you don't climb up there and sweep it off, it just pours off water. And I've had many soaked cups of coffee as it dumps off all the water that stores on top of it. So it was time to provide some protection to an expensive machine, extend its life, keep it out of the elements, protect it from the sun. I wanted to give it a home. So there's a she or a he. What would you call a tractor? Would you gender a tractor a he or a she? Are all machines she? I know boats are she. Ships. Sorry, you Navy people. Ships. Coast Guard people call them boats, right? So wanted to provide her some protection while she's not working out. This feels weird though. John Deere is such a manly name. Anyways, you guys can tell me whether you should gender a tractor he or she. It can't be an ambiguous gender. It has to be one of those two choices. Those are your only choices. Let's start up on the roof here. So the main point of this was to create a rain shelter. Have a core memory of shingling roofs. I'd love to fully enclose this at some point, but as all things, trying to shave the cost. This side of the of the lean-to faces to the southwest, and that seems to be where in Oklahoma a lot of the winds come from. So I noticed after I finished building this shed that the rain was just kind of coming straight in anyways, so I needed to build a lip here, and I had almost enough shingles left over without buying more. So there's some areas where I made some compromises here. I just need 2 more shingles up there to kind of finish the job on the side. And I know it's not typical to shingle down here, but I just wanted something to cover up this side and provide some, you know, some protection. They haven't really stuck to the tar strip yet on the bottom edge. I used some manual cement. I also sprayed some Flex Seal instead of using a starter strip in between each one, just to provide the protection for the wood itself. Another idea, this was actually my wife's idea, was we showed her a little watering system with the rain barrel, and figured I would just put a gutter here to collect some of this rain and help cut some water bill costs by filling up the rain bucket, and when we need to water some of the trees on the property when it gets dry, and not always fill from the tap. And again, costs. I didn't want to buy an entire other 10-foot strip of aluminum gutter just to have a complete looking piece. This is on the south side of the property, nobody can see it anyways. And that's the other feature here about this rain barrel. I want to be able to grab it with the pallet forks down here. So I have this extended hose here to come out. Normally you would put the rain barrel, flip it around and put it right against the post, but this makes life a little easier when I just need to grab the whole pallet and our little system here and take it out to wherever we need some water where we can't reach a hose. Here's another angle. When I was 20 years old, I spent a summer building barns, sheds, whatever you want to call them, in a small company in North Carolina. Spent about 4 months doing the labor. We built them all kind of in what we called the mother barn. We pumped them out assembly line fashion, but I have core memories of shingling roofs on the top of sheds, and they were always what you did at the end of a long work day, assembling and building. And shingling a roof it's not a fun job. It's a lot of labor, hard on your back, and I think as all projects on this farm go, I've underestimated what I thought would be a tiny little, baby lean-to on the side of the shed, but it ended up being 10 feet by 15 feet, so you're talking larger than your average American bedroom in terms of roof size. I got 2x6 by 10 ceiling joists, and I kind of patched this together as I went on. I'm sure there'll be comments about how poor I am to code, but I was trying to do this as cheap as possible. The expenses are mounting here when you try to start up, and unfortunately we didn't get a nice handy 30 by 40 pole barn to store everything in, and that's our goal later. But right now I just need something extra to protect from the elements, especially the new expensive tractor that we bought to help us with projects around here. So I learned a lot as I went. I'll show you a few things that I did, and you can tell me how awful my decisions were. Cheap straight brackets, number 10 nails, some brackets I had to fold, some mending plates, another cheaper kind of bracket here. I realized that, like I said, I'm not a professional yet, but you learn by experience, is that I should have cut these lower and put the top hanger on the top as opposed to the way I did it here. But I was trying to deal with the fact that I needed this roof to be pretty tall to deal with the ROPS bar and my little shade on the tractor, and so to get that height I didn't have a whole lot to work with up here in terms of that angle. So this is a very, very shallow roof. And then I used our existing fencing structure on the property, which this is very securely attached to the ground, this metal corner of the fence for all the barbed wire around the perimeter of the property. And I used what I called my MacGyver here to mount this to the side and provide some additional structural support utilizing what's already in place here. The other thing was, how did I get it into the barn itself over here, the shed? It's probably about 7 degrees when I cut these joints on a miter saw. But again, this was 2x6 pressure treated lumber, and I mounted to the side of the barn, and I drilled in to get it mounted to the barn's truss. That's the bottom bar, and on this side it had two 2x4s inside there that provided significant structural support. Another interesting joint I had was up here. So I went wide because I wanted the maximum depth I could, because the tractor is very long, in case you are wondering. And when you have these pallet forks, they get out in the sun, but it's probably 15 feet, 16 feet long total. So I wanted to maximize the width. So I had to figure out how to get a roof joined here to what you wouldn't really consider to be structurally sound on an overhang, but there's a 4x4 here providing good support. And I joined in with some interesting pieces of wood here. I joined into the 2x4 that runs behind the 1x6 flashing, not flashing, but you know, what do they call it? Soffitting. Sorry for all my broken terminology here. And a bunch of joist hangers and brackets and bracing structures just to kind of go over the top with our wind and hard rains here. Wanted to make sure that this was pretty structurally sound as much as possible and keeping an eye on it. I was up there, and I'm a big guy. There was 5 bags of shingles. There was about 5 sheets of 4x8 that were up there, and I didn't feel any buckling or any creaks. So I think I started by trying to save a lot of money on the ceiling joists, and I had them spaced really wide and ended up having to get more. So I think these spacing is like 18 inches or less, which is a little bit more than is needed, but I was learning as I went. So we feel pretty solid here, and I'm pretty confident that we did a great job. My wife told me to work on being pithy, so I'm practicing here. We'll see which clips I end up using. This is not how you're supposed to use a joist hanger like this. But that was about what I was trying to do. I was in that metal section. I had the local hardware store, and you want to see a place where men are cursing and muttering under their breath, it's go to the metal section and the lumber section, the fasteners, the strong tie section, and the prices are just absurd right now. Like this strong tie tee up here, that's probably usually a few bucks a few years ago. Now it's $7 a pop to get this guy up here. So on the farm, we've talked a lot about some of the goals here are more than pure function, which a lot of places get to because you're just dealing with life. It's trying to maintain some of the form as well, so that things look pleasing and are nice. And I do think it motivates, at least it tickles my brain that wants order in it a little bit more. And so we eventually want the bigger structure to deal with, but for now we're trying to use what we have and work cost effectively. And talking prices right now is a bit tricky because everything continues to get more and more expensive. But I would say this entire lean-to structure over here, everything you see to build it costs less than $1,000, which probably would have cost less than $500 a couple years ago, unfortunately, with the cost of everything. But $1,000 to cover a very expensive tractor and some tools, provide some rain collection, and what else does it do? I mean, it's just going to be a great place to probably rest and hide every now and then with projects. So we hope it looks pretty good. We might paint some of the structure to blend it in a bit more with the existing. But overall, I think our continued work to use a 20-year-old barn and make it look a lot newer and a lot more functional for what's a growing operation here. And we'll see what things look like at the end of the year when we have a lot of storage needs over the winter. I think we're doing well to kind of keep costs down and continue to make a structure that marries form and function, and hopefully in time we can continue to build on it. So hopefully this video turns out to be all right, and if you have any questions or if you want to report me to a local county rep to tell them how bad my permit process was, then, you know, feel free to dislike the video. But hopefully I'll just get a lot of guys and some gals saying good job. It was a hard project. That's our lean-to for John Deere. More to come. Stay tuned.